Hi there, it's Dr. Bernstein, and in this video I am going to present you with 4 advanced strategies for opening paragraphs. You already know the basic details that belong in an opening paragraph of an argumentative essay. So you know that somewhere in this paragraph you need to state your thesis, your argument, and give the reader a sense of the points you're going to make in order to support your thesis. You're also going to want to sort of set up the context of your essay and your topic. And if you're focusing on just one or two main texts or writers, you'll also want to make sure to include them and mention them in this paragraph. However, as we've discussed, sometimes you can have all the basic required elements but still not manage to write a truly effective, engaging, and A-level opening paragraph. So today what I'm going to go over with you are some more advanced strategies that you can use to really develop your opening paragraphs and take them to the next level. So the first strategy, and these aren't ranked in like one is better than the other, but the first strategy we're going to cover is moving from the specific to the general by using an anecdote. An anecdote is a brief narrative example. It's often about a specific incident in your own life. However, it can also be a created scene. So you can start off with an anecdote that's related to your topic, a quote or fact that is related to the main point of your essay. So what I have here is something from an actual student's opening paragraph. She's still deciding on the thesis for her essay, but it seems like she might wind up focusing on how poets like Billy Collins and Pamela Spiro Wagner provide busy college students with a way of slowing down and appreciating simple things in a new, more profound way. So this is how she might start her opening paragraph. As busy college students, we walk through the halls in deep thought about our last class, our next class, and our homework for today, tomorrow, and the rest of the week. We study terms, charts, and equations, take notes, write papers, and write more papers. In most of our classes, we're just trying to get through it. Each semester is a blur of memorizing necessary material in our brains for short-term storage and dumping it after we get that needed grade. So what you can see already, right, is that this paragraph is drawing the reader in. It's setting up a scene. It's setting up how busy students are, how preoccupied they are with certain types of learning and knowledge. And then what this writer would do if she's going to take this approach in her essay is get into how Collins and Spiro Wagner help these students slow down and appreciate simple things in a more complex, sophisticated, deeper way, and perhaps that this is the kind of knowledge that will last them for the long run. So you could see that thesis and the points she's going to make to support her claim, which will need to come at the end of this anecdote. You can see that that information packs much more of a punch because she set up this issue, this anecdote of students always rushing around and not really holding on to anything. Strategy number 2 is to move from the general to the specific. So one student found herself intrigued with Emily Dickinson's use of the word distills and wants to focus on how two of the poets we're studying seem to go through a distilling process in their poems. So she might want to start off by describing the larger, more general issue of her essay, the distilling process. So she could briefly describe how manufacturers extract the essence of their product through a distilling process. So there, she's not talking about poetry at all. She's taking this more general issue and setting it up, and then she's going to move into the specifics. In this case, how the poets she's focusing on go through a similar distilling process when it comes to their language and imagery. So you can see that here too, this approach also takes things to the next level where it's not just including the required elements, but really drawing the reader in, setting up a scene for a reader. As a reader, you want to feel invited, right? You want to feel pulled in and wanting to read more. And so as a writer, you can do this yourself by setting up a scene. Now, there's strategy number 3. You can pose a meaningful question or set up a problem that is directly related to your thesis. So, if you're creating an argument about what makes the poetry of Collins and Spiro Wagner easy to understand and at the same time complex, you might want to start with a question like this one. Why is it that so many people are afraid of poetry? Asking a question, you don't want to go overboard asking too many questions, but asking a question can draw people in to your essay because it gets them thinking. It gets them actively involved in thinking about the issue that you're going to be addressing. So why is it that so many people are afraid of poetry? And if you took this approach, you could then start providing an answer to that question, and then gently guide your reader to Collins and Spiro Wagner, who might help them overcome this fear of poetry because of their commitment to remaining accessible while still challenging their minds. Another related approach is not just a question, but setting up a problem. So you could start off by addressing the problem of difficult poetry. Collins talks about this a lot in his interview. But set up the problem of difficult poetry. Why is it problematic? And why does it turn off so many people? And then your thesis about Collins and Spiro Wagner would serve as a solution to the problem. Strategy number 4. You can challenge common interpretations and beliefs. A lot of times, one thing that some professors are looking for is a sort of innovative, fresh perspective on the issue. And I can tell you from having read a lot of the discussion posts, I've seen a lot of people say, poetry is important to people in today's culture. I saw so many repetitions of that phrase that it sort of lost any power it might have had. So you want to watch out for cliches, but you can definitely challenge them. You can challenge common interpretations and beliefs. So I'm going to give you an example from an essay that's not about poetry here, because you might have to write essays that are not about poetry or about literature in general. So let's say a student is writing an essay on Gandhi's commitment to challenging the way some of his fellow Indians were perpetuating oppression by treating members of other castes with disrespect. Castes are sort of like their class system. So this student could begin his essay by discussing how most people think about Gandhi in terms of all that he did to help his fellow Indians rid themselves of external oppression from the British. So the student could sort of set up this, what we know about Gandhi, and then move into what most people don't recognize. So the student could say, however, what is less recognized and equally important is the way Gandhi refused to allow Indians to perpetuate oppression within their own communities. So you could see you're sort of setting up, look, I know what lots of other people say and believe, but there's something else that's important for us to consider here. So that's another good strategy. So now you have your 4 more advanced strategies for your opening paragraphs. I encourage you to experiment with them, see which one seems to work best for you given the context of your essay. And a lot of times, you'll want to sometimes people can start their opening paragraph right off the bat, But maybe you start off with that more basic opening paragraph, and once you've written your whole essay, or once you've gotten a little bit further along in your essay, you might want to come back to your opening paragraph and start using one of these more advanced strategies once you have a clear picture of your whole essay. But again, you have to do what works for you as an individual, and for you in the context of this specific essay you're working on. So that's it for now. Take care. Bye.